On the phone, it is a pleasure to welcome to the program Beth and George Gage. They are the filmmakers behind the film Bitter 70, which has been through the film festival circuit, has done quite well, and is basically recounts the story of Tim DeChristopher and the 2 years essentially that have, I guess now 3 years that have taken place since he walked into a Bureau of Land Management oil and gas lease auction. And let's not. We will talk about that story in just a moment. Beth and George, you there? Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you. It's our pleasure.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Beth. Hi, George. So, all right, let's start first. I mean, we've been following Tim DeChristopher's story on this program since at least early 2011. But first off, if you want to just give us a little summary of the film. I've watched the film; it's incredibly moving. But just give us a brief summary about the film.
Well, the film goes into a lot of, obviously the auction itself and what Tim did, how he protested against the auction by doing a peaceful act of civil disobedience. And then it follows him as he's indicted by the Obama administration, which was a big surprise to us. At that point, the trial kept getting postponed and postponed and postponed. And what Tim was during that period of time was a lot of different activism. In other words, he's from West Virginia. We went out to West Virginia. He sort of learned what he didn't know firsthand about mountaintop removal. It outraged him. He came up with a very clever idea to come up with a candidate to run against a blue dog Democrat who was like a six-time incumbent. He went on Craigslist and actually found a candidate, a very good candidate, to run against Mr. Matheson. And she actually did very, very well and turned it into a primary run. So we followed him just about everything he did, a lot of personal things, but a lot of activism during this period of time where the trial just kept getting postponed. And one of the reasons it kept getting postponed is if things weren't favorable for the other side, for oil and gas, for instance, the BP oil spill, then it was postponed for 6 months. And that kept going on.
Well,
and one of the things, Sam, I don't know if your listeners know, but what Tim did was, to start this whole process, was he bid without any money and without any intention to drill in a Bureau of Land Management oil and gas lease auction. And he won 22,000 acres of land, bidding about $1.8 million that he didn't have. And that's what, started this process that got him into trouble. And the reason that he did it is that he saw that writing letters and marching in protest just wasn't getting anything done. And he thought if he could possibly stop this auction, because it was at the very end of the Bush administration, that perhaps the new Obama administration would invalidate the auction. So that's how it all began.
Well, it's sort of fascinating, too, because Tim describes in the film on how he didn't necessarily have a specific plan. He just, it all seemed to sort of, he walked into the auction. They said, are you here to bid? And he just decided at that point, yeah. And he sat down and he started bidding. I mean, there was a real sense that it was just sort of momentum.
Once they handed him that paddle, he realized he had a very, very powerful instrument in his hands. And at first, he just started bidding up the oil and gas companies, which other people have known to have done. But at one point, he looked over his shoulder and he saw a member of his church, a female, just crying her eyes out, seeing all this great land right outside of Arches and Canyonlands National Parks, as Robert Redford says in our movie, arguably some of the most beautiful land in the United States. And she just started crying, seeing this great land going for oil and gas exploration. At that point, I think Tim said, I know I'm going to get in trouble. I just got to do it. I know there's going to be consequences, but I just got to do it. I got to stop this. And then Tim started winning the parcels, all the parcels.
And so, at what point? I mean, at what point did they? Now, at one point they stopped the auction. Is it because they realized that? Wait a second, who is this guy, and he doesn't have any cash?
Yes, that's exactly right. But actually, there was an undercover Bureau of Land Management police officer at the auction watching the protest, and he was watching Tim right from the moment that he came into the auction, because he didn't look like everybody else. You know, he wasn't dressed in a suit. He had come there directly from an exam at college, and so they were kind of watching him because they knew that this auction was widely protested. And, we're watching him, and he didn't do anything. And then when he started bidding, the BLM agent thought, well, I guess he is a real oil and gas man. But then when he started, just bidding and bidding and bidding and winning and winning and winning, the BLM agent stopped the auction, took Tim out and questioned him for 3 hours, and Tim right away, said what he was doing and why he was doing it, and he wasn't arrested at that time, but he was held, and questioned and then released for a while, and his action did stop the auction. They did not resume the auction, so exactly what Tim hoped would happen did happen, and it wasn't until like 3 or 4 months later that he was indicted.
As a matter of fact, these auctions are actually filmed by the local news stations and so forth, and we were lucky enough to get access to that footage, so that even though we didn't start the film until after the action happened, we were fortunate enough to have coverage of the auction itself, and Tim being hustled away and Tim being interviewed by different reporters afterwards and so forth.
Now, will you also just sort of set the stage as to why these protesters were protesting? Because ultimately, their protests were vindicated, which has, ultimately surprisingly little impact on the trial, though it certainly should have had more. But it wasn't simply that they didn't like the idea of this land being auctioned off. It was also because they felt that it had not been properly the idea that this land could be auctioned off was not properly vetted from an environmental perspective.
Right. It wasn't properly vetted, and also there was much more land that was included in this auction at the last minute. They kept pushing in more parcels and more parcels and more parcels because Bush knew that, or the Bush administration knew that this was their last chance to help the oil and gas industries to some of this land. And the reason that this particular auction was so highly protested was that, as George mentioned, it was land that surrounded many of our national parks. And for those people in the East, the West has some gorgeous, gorgeous areas in Utah, Moab, and, all the cowboy movie landscapes around national parks such as Arches and Canyonlands and Dinosaur National Monument, and just all this red rock and slick rock, beautiful landscape, and it would have been ringed with drill rigs. And so all of the people in that area, particularly Colorado and Utah, were protesting this auction, and so that was why there was so much attention to this particular auction. But in fact, something that I found out by going to Tim's trial is these auctions happen. I'm not sure if it's monthly. I think it's quarterly, but Bureau of Land Management oil and gas lease auctions happen every few months, and land all over the country is being put up for auction. And generally, citizens don't even know that it's happening.
And what would really affect your New York audience, of course, is this whole fracking business is happening in upstate New York. Right. And these are part of the lands that also are auctioned off at these BLM auctions. And
we should say that 2 months after the auction was halted, and Secretary of Interior Ken Salazar, who was at that point sort of the incoming secretary, this auction took place in December, so it was President Obama-elect at that point. 2 months later, Ken Salazar is now the Interior Secretary, and he invalidated the auction not because of what Tim had done, but because it was found to be invalid insofar as these lands were not properly vetted and put up for auction. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. But, Yes, and there was a lawsuit. Several environmental groups had filed a lawsuit against this particular auction, and I think it was 77 parcels over around 150,000 acres that they were protesting. And when Salazar invalidated the auction, he felt that the auction hadn't been properly vetted. But Tim's lawyer, Patrick Shea, was the head of the Bureau of Land Management in the Clinton administration. And he really felt, as we do, that if Tim hadn't stopped the auction, that those parcels would have been sold that day, and it would have been very difficult to get that land back. And so yes, nobody has ever said that the reason that those land parcels were saved was because of what Tim did, but I think we know that when land is sold to energy companies, it's pretty hard to get that land back from them.
The litigation involved in that in the first place would have tied that land up for years and years and years.
True.
But what's clear, though, is that there were grounds to invalidate that auction without Tim DeChristopher's actions. Maybe Tim's actions may have made it possible to do so, but there were certainly grounds. And this is relevant because if you have... It seems to me that what Ken Salazar was saying is that this was an improper auction. So if you have someone who's involved in civil disobedience to stop something that the government acknowledges was improper to begin with, it should have been a mitigating factor in his case, no?
Yes, and that's what drives me crazy, the fact that something that we have deemed illegal, that someone is put in prison for a couple of years for disrupting something that we, in fact, have said as a government is illegal, the auction itself.
But the problem is, and the reason, first of all, it was a surprise to us that Tim was indicted, because he was indicted after the auction was deemed illegal. But what was really infuriating is that the jury couldn't know that the auction was illegal, and the jury couldn't know where the land was. So they didn't have the information that would have helped them understand why Tim did what he did, and the fact that this land had already been taken off the auction block anyway.
And 27 other people in recent history, in fact, I just talked to someone the other night about something else, had been one of those bidders. 27 people in recent history have bid with no intention to drill.
So
they've not been indicted.
And they've not been indicted.